Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And I have been wanting to talk about this for quite some time, but unfortunately, every time I picked up the mic to do a podcast, it was always about um, some issue that somehow or the other I, even though I could maybe, I was always thinking that okay, I can connect this issue with this particular issue, and then I could put them all in one podcast. But unfortunately, somehow or the other, this seemed to have always failed. So I'm thinking I should do a small dedicated podcast on Iran and Afghanistan and the whole issue. I'm not going to dive deep into the geopolitics and the political details because, you can always hit the history books or you can always listen to analysts who actually know their stuff about it. For example, you can check out Dr. Maid Pirzada, you can check out Dr. Shabazz Gill, you can check out Wajahat Ali Khan, you can check out, I mean, any of these. And as I said, you can always hit the history books, and even Google is free. You can always hit Google, but obviously Google may not give you the actual inner stories, which is why I'm saying you need to listen to those analysts and maybe read some books. All I'm going to say is that I need to address this issue because I know that there are people who actually do have at least this much general knowledge to know that Iran was the first country to officially recognize Pakistan when Pakistan was founded. Yeah, fun fact. And yet, you always hear, especially even me in many of my podcasts, you must have heard me saying, oh, but Iran technically never even recognized Pakistan. Iran doesn't accept Pakistan and all. Now, where did the issue begin? This is what I think I need to address because I know people might think, why the hell is she giving a false narrative? It's not a false narrative. Problems arose. Those same geopolitical problems that always seem to arise. For example, actually, if we look at Iran and Afghanistan, just the two of them, and then we'll understand. Afghanistan was actually the only country, actually, that never recognized Pakistan's independence. Yes, initially, Afghanistan did not recognize Pakistan when it was created. And its government, here's the problem. So, the Afghani government has never recognized the Durand Line border. Okay? So, that is their issue. Their issue is that they think that the KPK side of Pakistan belongs to them, although obviously it doesn't. But just because they have been able to cross borders with ease for centuries, and so they have integrated into this part of the border for centuries. So they have, same tribes or relatives and all. They believe that just because of that alone, they have rights over certain parts of what is now KPK. Okay. It obviously, if you go even way behind that, and if you go, because if you remember, under the Muslim rule, continents, you had continents under the Muslim rule. Now, if you even forget the three of them, you just look at just the subcontinent alone, which is the Indian subcontinent, you will realize that under the Mughal rule, they had united a lot of what were before independent princely states, warring states, neighboring states, and all into this one big gigantic subcontinent. And there was a time when even Sri Lanka was part of this. And there was a time when even Afghanistan obviously was a part of it. And that was to an extent where basically, again, the Muslim rulers that came from that side sort of, blurred the lines, you can say. As we know, Sri Lanka has become a completely separate country now. It's not a part of the subcontinent, as it's not part of India. Pakistan became separate again. Bangladesh became separate again. And I'm saying again because, again, let me remind you, the subcontinent is called a subcontinent because these were different independent princely or kingly states. These were different independent countries, okay, that were joined together under the Muslim rule. Okay, so since the Muslim rule began, the whole subcontinent basically came into formation. So, well, Sri Lanka became separate again. Then, although again, one would argue that even before the Muslim rule, Sri Lanka or Ceylon was actually always a part of the Indian subcontinent as one country. As if you will, especially if you look into the very old, you know, Indian scriptures or their religious narratives and all whatever. But point is, okay, Sri Lanka is a separate country now. Okay, Bangladesh separate, northern India, with parts of Bangladesh, which is Bengal, parts of what should have been Pakistan and all. You have India on one side, and then you have parts of northern India that separated once again back into Pakistan, and then you have the other areas which are Balochistan, KPKs. So this is again, as I said, I'm just giving you a layman point of view, just to get the general idea, right? So Afghanistan basically never ever accepted Pakistan's existence right from the start, right off the bat. Later on, obviously, they revoked their you know how do we say, their refusal to accept Pakistan, because whether they liked it or not, Pakistan was here to stay. But the thing is, the Durand Line is still internationally recognized as the border between the two countries, but Afghanistan is always trying to put it under dispute. It doesn't matter what government comes or goes, the Durand border or the Durand Line, it becomes one way or the other a point of dispute every time a disagreement arises. In fact, for the longest time, Pakistan, this is probably one of the reasons why for the longest time Pakistan never dealt severely with the illegal border crossing from Afghanistan to Pakistan, right? As we know, for decades, since the formation of Pakistan, for decades, Afghanis have been crossing border illegally. They've been staying here in Pakistan illegally. If you remember, a point had come when Imran Khan decided that, okay, those who have lived here, done businesses here, made homes here, have had families here, they have children and grandchildren here, they should be given, they should automatically just be given Pakistani nationality so that they can just stay here with ease, even though they were illegally living here for decades. So such things were put into motion. But if you remember, before that, General Musharraf tried to reassert the borderline between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which, to be honest, very personally, I agreed with. Okay. And the fact that America made such a hue and cry about it was something that really, really offended me. And on a personal level, I got really pissed off, because that was the time when America's government was trying to grab Afghanistan, as in, that is when you had American troops in Afghanistan, that is when you had them committing atrocities in Afghanistan, that is when you had them trying to use Pakistani soil against Afghanistan and against Pakistan, obviously citing collateral damages at each turn, while they were literally killing off innocents. So that really pissed me off, and I was thinking maybe General Musharraf should have been a little more strict and severe in closing the border. And he, to an extent, did become a bit more strict, and he did give America a shut up call, because, very, very frankly, America was responsible for whatever was going on in Afghanistan. And so America owed it to the Afghanis to give them a refugee status in America. How is it that the Afghanis did not ever recognize Pakistan, but they always come running to Pakistan whenever they were in deep shit, so to speak? Every single time they had a war going on, or every single time they had an issue going on, they would always cross borders and come and settle into Pakistan, as if it was their right, you know, as if it was their birthright. And yet they never went to India. Why? Because India, who they actually officially recognized, yes, while they refused to recognize Pakistan upon its creation, they officially recognized India. But here's the fun fact: India never gave Afghanistan refuge. India very politically interfered within Afghanistan's politics. They interfered within Afghanistani soil. They worked with the Americans in Afghanistani soil against the Afghans, as the Talibans, and against Pakistan, right? They were also not there for Afghanistan when they were fighting the Soviets, Who was the idiot, the moron that came in? Pakistan. I consider Pakistan an idiot and a moron because Ziaul Haq thought he was being very clever, when he brought America into this whole thing and said, "Oh, let's both two of us together work against the work with the Afghanis to free them from the Soviet occupation." The Afghanis were already fighting. The Soviets were not able to occupy anyway, but they were still holding a grip, much the same way as the Americans managed to hold a grip for 10 years and losing very bitterly. So the Soviets were losing bitterly too. But this is a fact which, as you know now, that the Americans and the whole world, the whole Western world, have again and again, their political analysts, their historical analysts, their army analysis, military analysis, they've all said it again and again that the only reason Afghanistan ever survived and won against any and every occupation, from the Soviets to the Americans, was Pakistan. And it is true. It is true because Pakistan heavily interfered with these wars. Pakistan weaponized the Afghans. Pakistan allowed the Afghans to set bases in Pakistan. Pakistan helped them by teaching them guerrilla war tactics. It is all true. The Pakistani army was heavily involved in all of it. And that is what helped the Afghanis to survive the Soviets, and that is also what helped them to survive the Americans, because according to the Americans, they claimed that Pakistan was playing a double game. Well, obviously, it is in Pakistan's national interest that they play that double game, alleged double game, if that's what you like to call it. Pakistan, I think, in fact, should not have even entertained even a percentage of working with the Americans. Pakistan should have 100% been openly on Afghanistan's side. But knowing our, again, geopolitics, knowing our alliances, knowing our whole problems, our engagements with the Western world, especially with America, it was understood that the diplomatic way to deal with it was to work both sides, right? Because, as I said, it is against Pakistani's national interests that any occupying force should come in any one of the neighboring countries, to be honest. It is against our interests. And if you can hear the azan going on in the background, this is the Asr time, so I would love to take a pause for the azan, but my problem is then I will completely forget whatever it is. And as how it has taken me weeks to come to this subject, I'll probably forget everything and have to start from scratch again. So apologies here. But yeah, again, this is a whole layman version. If you want to understand the actual geopolitics of it, the actual whole thing, please hit the books or do a deep dive into history or listen to, again, analysts. So now, again, here we are at this point where, again, as I said, again and again, we keep on talking about how Iran doesn't seem to accept Pakistan. So what are the issues here? The issues here are Iran was actually the first country to accept Pakistan, right? So understand here a few things. First of all, as we know, Iran was the first country to accept Pakistan, as I've said like 3 times now. But moving on, what happened then? What happened was then at one point, in fact, the government of Pakistan in around 1963. Actually, the agreement was concluded in February 1958, but the ceremonial transfer, you can say, occurred in July 1963. And that was where there was a mutual boundary agreement with Iran that the government of Pakistan then had reached upon. And that was where Pakistan agreed to transfer approximately 310 square miles of the Balochistan region. Right? The primary official, let's talk about official reasons. Again, if you want to listen to the actual inner conspiracies and why we referred to our then dictator as a traitor who gave up parts of Pakistan to China and parts of Pakistan to Iran. You need to again deep dive into that. But here I'm just giving you the official story, okay? So the official story was that the primary reasons for this adjustment was to settle a long-standing border issue inherited from the colonial era, because Iran had consistently protested the British occupation of the territory, arguing that the border agreements forced upon it by Britain in the late 19th and early 20th centuries were invalid. So, to formalize and demarcate the entire Iran Pakistan border, which had only been partially surveyed by the British in 1871, which is also known as the Goldsmith Line, this was done. Okay, and also this they thought would help foster friendly and fraternal relations with Iran by resolving this historical problem. So, this is done, right? Now, since Iran had already had friendly relationships with Pakistan and everything, what happened? What happened was that the relationship became complicated. Okay, why? One would ask. Again, I'll just try to give you the official story here, but inner stories, listen to the analysts. But okay, officially, again, it was all about the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Now, if you remember, during that revolution in 1979, that prompted a lot of Iranians also to seek refuge in Pakistan. Yes, a large number of Iranians moved to Pakistan. Some have actually settled since then in Pakistan and are living here as Pakistani citizens. Some returned, some traveled to other different countries from here, depending on whatever, obviously, the whole situation was. But the revolution saw a huge influx of Iranian refugees into Pakistan. Okay, so this is again your geopolitical interests going on. You had the revolution, you had the cross-border security threats, you had the regional rivalries involving Saudi Arabia and India. Okay, now as we know, Balochistan has a border along Iran. They have a shared border. So both countries tend to face insurgencies. Obviously, if any time there would be a problem like a revolution or a civil war or anything, and obviously as we have a long-term interference of India, in Balochistan in the form of BLA, and we have had these concerns that the raw agents have been constantly playing a role in Balochistan to create this fabricated separatist movement. Because as I said, this is a fabricated movement, because at the end of the day, the whole original movement of the original the Balochi movement has always been that their rights that are taken away, that are stolen away from them, their resources, gas, gold, semi-precious stones, rare earth minerals, anything, everything, they need to at least get some profits out of it. They need to at least enjoy some of it. It's their land. It's coming from their land. How can people just take their stuff and not even let them have a percentage of it? And remember again, under Imran Khan's governance, for the first time in history, the whole of Pakistan was united. In fact, even those parts of Pakistan that were autonomous, they had autonomous jurisdictions. Those parts also actually filed a petition stating that they wanted to now be officially part of Pakistan. What bigger proof or evidence do you have of what the core issues of each problematic area is? It is that as long as they know they have the right leader, everybody's fine. When you know you have a corrupt leader, when you know that you're being stolen from, look at Punjab. People think that Punjab has eaten everything out of Pakistan. The truth is, Punjab itself has been eaten. That actually nobody realizes. Punjab has been eaten, Sindh has been eaten, Balochistan's been eaten, KPK's been eaten, the Kashmir Gilgit Baltistan, you have these so-called international companies that are coming and mining and digging away resources from the northern areas. They're not even allowing people. As I told you, they literally stop the people and they do a body search, and they take away whatever stones or natural stones or gold or resources they have. It's theirs. It's from their land. It's from their. Who are you? And these are whom? Your international companies that are working there. They are being cooperated with by, again, who else? Your British planted Pakistani army. So here we are again. So this is the whole post-revolution problem that has created this whole thing. Now, Pakistan claims that it has long suspected India of using Iranian soil to support insurgent activities in Balochistan, aka the BLA, you know, and especially this apprehension was heightened by the arrest of, if you remember, Kulbhushan Yadav in 2014, the Indian intelligence officer that just dropped. I mean, how clumsy of him, seriously. But anyway, so and then the fact that Pakistan has an alliance with the US, but at the same time, the US is always sanctioning Iran, and the US is also actually, let me put it this way, the US is always trying to dictate Pakistan, just like how France has been dictating its former colonies, or Britain has been dictating its Commonwealth countries. So the US, again, under supervision of the British, has been dictating Pakistan as to who we need to trade with, who we need to stay friends with. For example, this whole fiasco of Imran Khan going on a visit to Russia. Russia is our neighboring country. We have had many dealings with Russia in the past. Why does the US now have to dictate? The US has also been trying to, as you know, and they have finally managed to successfully put a stop to our whole Gwadar project. Okay, so this government that keeps on claiming that Imran Khan was a Jewish law, he was brought in by the Jewish lobby. This very government now is actually with the Jewish lobby. This is the government that is recognizing Israel. This is the government that is trying to protect Israel. But Imran Khan, to that same Imran Khan in Pakistan, they said he was of the Jewish lobby. And in America, they went and said, oh, he's a Taliban person, he's an extremist, and he's going to go against Western interest. And this is how they played. But it's not to say that America was a fool. America was obviously part of the whole plan right off the bat. Even before Imran Khan became prime minister, America actually has been working with our army in every single election rigging. America can pretend it doesn't, but it has. Every single election rigging that we have had over the years has been with America's help, with America's blessing, with its endorsement. The puppet governments that we keep on and on getting are again, khas America. And then you have again the ousting of Imran Khan, which is again planned by Americans. You can't say that, oh, they were the whole naive idiots who our people went and gave fabricated stories. No. America, even way before that, has been stopping Imran Khan from taking from taking up governance. They have been constantly rigging the elections. In other words, they have been supporting the rigging of our elections. So even now, as you see, the whole of Europe has been collectively, they can be collectively grouped as co-conspirators in the fact that they actually hid the whole data pertaining to the massive illegal activities and rigging of the elections, both then and now. So now, and here's another thing. So the Americans obviously never wanted that Iran and Pakistan should stay close. And so thanks to the Americans, the regional Sunni Shia divide was being played at, which we blame, that was fueled by the Saudi-Iran rivalry. But again, who created the Saudi-Iran rivalry again? The US. So again, how was it that Imran Khan managed to put Iran and Saudi together on one table and have them talk and reach a mutual agreement? How was it? So yeah, these American influence is what you can say. American influence. And in Afghanistan, you can say it's the Indian influence plus the Pakistani stupidity. The Pakistani stupidity of thinking that just because we interfered in the Afghan Soviet war, so they owe us. They don't owe us. You know what they do owe us? They owe us to stay in peace in their own land. And you know what we owe them? We owe them to shut up and back off now. Okay, this was even okay, not that I'm first of all, I don't even think that Ziaul Haq had a very pure Islami, brotherly reasons behind the whole engaging in the anti-Soviet war with the Afghanis, okay, and dragging America in. No, no, no. It was purely political. But okay, let us give him that. Let us pretend that yes, he did have pure Islamic ideas that, oh, this is our brother country and they need to be free. So then you did your duty. You did your duty, right? So now back off. Just because we did our duty and helped them achieve their freedom doesn't mean that now we own them. And again, the fun thing, we were always with the Taliban, and now suddenly the Taliban becomes the government. And you know what? This is not even the original Taliban. This one that's the government. This is fully endorsed by the CIA. Well, again, the Taliban always was, one would argue, created and endorsed by the ISI and the CIA. So it's just because they did not want to be ruled and owned by the two of them is why they resisted the two of them as well, which again is their right. It is their right. But okay, now this Taliban that is governing Afghanistan, these are 100% once again under the CIA umbrella. So why does the Pakistani government have a problem with them? Politics. It's not a problem. It's politics. What is the politics here? It is that our army chief wants to create warlike situations in the region. He's basically doing what Modi is doing. So what Modi is doing is what the army chief is now doing. And he's trying to create these unnecessary conflicts so that he can prove his point that, see, there's so much going on, there's so much chaos, you need me. That is what he's trying to do. He's trying to save his career and get an extension, and even better, actually get a dictatorship, get an official dictatorship to his name. That is all that. That's the truth behind it. So yeah, Afghanistan was always problematic with Pakistan right from the start. So one could argue that, but Iran, I think Iran's main problems arose once the US interfered with the Pak-Iran relationships. Because if you remember, Pakistan and Iran also have this pipeline, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline project, Again, this was hampered by the US, by the way. Yes, the US came and deliberately hampered this project as well. So it just goes to show that behind every conflict is the West. The West, as we know, has always been very, very scared of an Islamic NATO, taking it from there now. Let's call it an Islamic NATO, but it's actually an Islamic Union or bloc. They have always been scared that the Muslim Ummah historically have been known that there is this narrative going on that whenever the time comes, the whole Muslim Ummah will gather, no matter what their conflicts are with each other, no matter what their divide is with each other, no matter what. But when the actual time comes, they will all become one. And that will be the ultimate defeat of the Western world. And it is to fight that accordingly. How superstitious your Western leaders are, isn't it? The cabal is so superstitious. So the Western world, just to stop that from happening, have been working diligently on creating these divides, creating these conflicts, and obviously on beginning the whole Israel conflict. The reason they put the whole Israel conflict was to defeat the very purpose of any form of unity amongst the Muslims. As you can see, as they work their way through Egypt to Syria, Libya, Lebanon, on this side, the Middle East has been compromised. Iran is always under sanctions. Now they've finally taken over Pakistan properly, which was a struggle for a long time. So yeah, this is where we stand. And I hope this makes sense without wasting too much time of yours. It's still almost 30 minutes, 29 minutes, 35 seconds have passed. So this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.